be working on designing next week's infographic, which is going to be about building an audience. It's based off of one of my favorite podcasts, This Old Marketing. So what I've already done before this process is I've listened to the episode, I've taken my notes, and now what I'm going to do, and I've also found the stock photos I want to use in this. So now what I'm going to do is actually start designing. So let's dig in. All right, I'll lower my opacity a bit here so you can see this is the template that I use. It has something like 48 different artboards on here for all the different sizes. So this is roughly the main infographic size you see here. You can see this here is the main infographic. And then up here I've got LinkedIn carousel images, Twitter images, Instagram images, and then if I want to do slides, that's what this would be. So based on that, the other thing that I do with this document, because I have a rolling document, and every week I start with previous one and then delete all of last week's information, is I can come in here so we can see what I'm talking about. What I do is if I find something that's inspiring to me, I will pull it in here and kind of hold it on. So I liked this image of Secession from The Ringer that the Ringer designers created. So I don't know if it's really going to look like that, but this is what I'm thinking, kind of the rough style of what I want to do. So knowing that, I think what I want to do is change my background colors. So this is an older background color from, I think, a couple issues ago. But what we're going to want to do is close that down, open gradients. So as you can see here, there's a gradient in here. Pull that down even more. There's a gradient in here. But what I'm going to want to do is change that. So why don't we just start with base color. Do we like the yellow? We'll start with yellow. We'll see how that looks. So then we're going to lock that background layer. So then we can work on this. And so I have a content layer. So this particular layer is just for all the content. If you can see here, down here, I've got some masks, different layers that I have on here. I've got masks and also the different types of footers that I use. Sometimes they have 3 lines, sometimes they have 4 lines. I can get into that later. Then content, and then texture, which would be something that sits on top of the background. Maybe if I'm going to mimic this style, it's probably going to be this dot type pattern. But in the meantime, the thing I always try to start with is, what is my headline going to look like? Because this is the key thing that determines whether people read this or not when they come across it. So the main thing I want to do is, this is all about building an audience. Change that to that. Align it. So I'm not going to use this typeface just because I don't like Myriad. It's just the default on it. So what I'm going to do is probably scroll through a few options that we have on here on this machine. Something like that might work. So one of the things that I'm doing is, after I click on it, I then hold down the Option Command and Shift key to duplicate this out. And if I want a whole bunch of these, I could do Command D, but I'm going to undo those. And so the reason why I do that is because what I'm looking for with my headline is kind of the keywords. What are people going to see as they're scrolling, as they're skimming, wherever they come across this? What are the big things they're going to see? I want them to realize we're talking about building an audience. So I don't know if I'm definitely not going to do yellow and black, but something like that, like a deep mahogany, kind of works well on yellow. So what I'm seeing right now, so usually what I do at this point is I'll kind of do 2 versions just to kind of see, does it make sense to do an upper and lowercase. So one of the things I like to do, I'll give you an example, is on my newsletter, what I like to do when I'm starting one of these is I look at the archive just to kind of see what I've been doing. You know, am I falling into any bad habits here? And so scrolling back, okay, we can see it's been a while, September, since we last had a yellow background. And that one was mostly yellow and navy. But what I try to do is I try to find things that I'm falling into. So oftentimes, you know, okay, white type, white-ish type, color type, color type, color type. Okay, so that's okay, but we probably don't want to do white type again. You can see last week, or 2 weeks ago actually, because I took last week off. 2 weeks ago, I had a real Illustrator vector type style. I know the last few issues have all had Illustrator vector styles, so that's why I'm going with photos this time around. It's been a little while since I've had photos in one of my infographics. So the other thing I'm looking for is, okay, this is a mix of capital and, actually that's an acronym, so that's camel case, that's camel case, this is all capitals, this is a mixture, that's camel case, mixture, capitals, mixture, that's all capitals. So we've been pretty even with that lately, so I think we're good to go with capitals because we haven't done that in a while. But the one thing you notice here is not having capital letters is actually allowing this to be larger. So for now, I'm going to pull that off to the side. And so here's the first big secret that I'll talk to you about. Kerning, the space between letters, you know, which is usually controlled over here. It's easier to see when you have bad spacing between letters when it's upside down. Different parts of your brain are consuming this differently. So you can start to see, okay, it's kind of tight here, but we've got some extra space here. Pull that in. We can pull this one in too. These letters actually kind of create a nice natural knockout there. And now we've got more spacing over here. So I'll pull that one in and pull this in just a little. So now, actually, you know what, now we can see that I brought that in a little too much. So building and audience. So again, this is an example. So this one's already trying to reduce it down, but I think we could pull it down a little more. So one of the things I did here was adjusted throughout the entire word, because if we change this up a little bit, now we have like a true hierarchy of what we want people to know. You know, this is about an audience, and a lot of people that read my newsletter are marketers, so it's going to be important to them to build an audience. So I'm really going to highlight, put a little more emphasis on audience than on the building, and obviously a lot less emphasis on and. Bring that one in a little bit, bring this one in. I'll flip it upside down to see if we see anything. Okay, these look a little close actually. A lot of space on this side of the word, so we might need to bring that in just a little more. Okay, I think that will work for now. Remember, save. And so what I'm looking at here is there's some cool textured patterns in the background there. I like the color scheme from this, so I'm probably going to adopt that as well. And one of the easiest ways to do that is in your swatches palette. Let's see, select all unused. There we go. And then delete those. Delete. Now what we can do is find the color we want. And we're going to create a new color palette based on that. So you can see there are a couple of key colors here. We'll pull in the lighter one also. So I think that will be a pretty good color palette for this infographic. All right, so building an audience. Let's see, I'm going to check my Evernote notes, which are off to the side, so you don't have to see. Well, you know what? I can show it to you. So basically what I did was I listened to this podcast and I took my notes. And the authors, the podcast hosts, Robert Rose and Joe Polizzi, they run through the 10 steps that are important to them for building an audience. So I went through, wrote down all 10, took a couple additional notes for each one, and when I found the photos, I copied and pasted the photo credits so I can include that in my newsletter. So number one that they say is publish a book. Now, the one thing we're missing is, okay, we've got a title and then jumping right into number one. This doesn't work. We need some sort of text to either say, here are some key ingredients to building an audience, or put that in the title. We'll get to that in a little bit. Here I'm thinking we need something else, but I don't know how well this is going to go because of the descender on that G. So we're going to mirror that roughly in the middle, copy, select this, group it, and center it. Okay, so I did decent with that. It's not working great. We've got this weird block of space here. Yeah, this is where capital letters really help when it comes to design elements, because if we had this, putting this in here works really well. It's possible we might come back to that. So I'm going to group that and put it off to the side. This is why I tend to save things as I'm working, because right now this is a little awkward. It's possible that I just pull this in later. But in the meantime, we will keep this as is. So we're going to need some sort of text here. We'll center that. We'll increase it, and we'll figure out what that says at a later date. You don't have to watch me figure out how to do copywriting, because that has to be really not interesting. So number one thing for building an audience, they say, is publish a book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my first image. And the first image I have, so here I've already found a bunch of images that I can use. This is the first image. So what I can do is we can do, big headline here, left justified, here's the image, and then we can do bullets 1, 2, 3. to give some additional context. Let's number these. Let Illustrator do the heavy lifting on this. But that doesn't look right. Paragraph. Nope, that's not right. Okay. So the problem we're running into is these should align down, and they're not. That's what I was afraid of. Because what you can do is pull the numbers back afterwards. So I'm looking for something that essentially works like this. So some sort of headline and some more detail and an image. That's going to be how the flow of this infographic will work going down the page. Will they add other elements and stuff? Yeah, probably. But one of the things that I should probably try to do is put some effects over that. Let's see, find our swatches. Let's go green to start and adjust the transparency so it is multiply. No, let's see what else we can do. Color burn might work well. You know, it's not quite what that secession image looks like, but I don't want to completely rip it off anyways. So this is one of those things that's a little bit easier to do in Photoshop. Saturation actually looks good. I'm going to pull down my video all the way. So, Command Y to look at my items in outline view. And try to get this as close as possible. And actually what I could do, let's see, copy paste up front, pull this over here, turn the transparency back to normal, push it back. Maybe. Don't love it, but it could work. Tighten that up a little bit. I don't want to go too big with this because some of these have longer words as we're getting into it, or longer titles. And what we need to do is be consistent all the way down the page. Try some different colors. That's not great. That works better. Nope, nope, nope. So why don't we leave it yellow for now? Save it again. But now I saved it. Now I want to actually try something a little bit different. Let's open this and we're going to image mode grayscale. Yes, discard image mode duotone. I'm going to come over here and find the hex color of this. so that is taking over that. That's not great. Let's see. Put some curves in here. I'm wondering if I can mess with this enough to really kind of get some highlights and lowlights in here. The question is, how does that look to that? It actually looks pretty close. So, but I like that better. You know what? We're going to, let's add some noise. To get a little bit more of that grainy effect that I liked. In there. All right, so definitely want to save this as something different. Green, and you know what? Let's inches, that's why. I was trying to figure out, I'm like, how is this thing 72 pixels at 72 dpi and 19 megs? All right, we only need this to be, let's say, around 1,000. Green, and we don't need it to be Photoshop file. That's a lot. Save it as a JPEG. Let's see. Oh, blog, marketing podcast recaps, building an audience. Green, got it. Okay, you know what? That didn't work because once I changed the resolution, so I need to change the resolution before this, before I add the noise. So what I'm doing here is just making the colors a bit more extreme. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so save our Photoshop file, save our web, and we'll just write over the previous one. Now in here, so I locked the color layer, and actually, you know what? I can probably just, I'll send it to back just in case. I was going to delete it, but. All right, green JPEG. Okay, I think that works. And I'm actually pretty close with the guides I have built in here. I'm just doing Command semicolon to get those on and off. But you can see that, this is how the whole thing is starting. So we're cruising through here, and now we're going to do something similar to the next level down. So I'm going to unlock everything, pull it down, but now flip it, so that this is here, lock that layer, select everything here, and pull it over. I would probably right align this normally, right justify this so that it aligns with the border here, with the guide here. But the problem is, I'll show you this, when you have numbers, you can't right align your stuff. So this whole thing will be left aligned. Yeah, I was debating for a second whether I should center line some of these things, but I think the back and forth, left and right bouncing will be a good thing. All right, so their number 2 suggestion for building an audience is use your juice. Again, you can see, really got to tighten this thing up so that looks normal. You know, that looks good now, but it was, you know, once you start to see kerning, the best thing I've ever heard about kerning is if you ever hate somebody, teach them about kerning. Because what happens is you start to see this big, massive, you know, block of nothing that exists between these letters, you know, as opposed to just part of the word. And you start to see, you know, it's almost like there's a space between those two words. So kerning is really important with these things. Go back here. I didn't look too closely at this one earlier. I'm going to spread that out a little bit because there's more room here. So I want to kind of balance that out. This might be a little bit far away, so that helps. Oh, one thing that is important that's good to know, if you've been doing this for any amount of time, you've probably noticed it, is when you're adjusting kerning, it's much easier when it's either left or right justified than when it's center aligned. Because when it's center aligned and you adjust things, it starts to move on both directions. I'll give you an example here. Not kern properly. Change that, center align it, we'll recenter it. So as you can see, we've got a lot of space excuse me, between the K and the E here. But what you can do is, as I'm pulling this in, you can see all of these. I'll zoom in so you can see better. So you can see like the P moves as I'm doing this. Oops. As I'm doing this. So they're all moving. Actually, I guess when you're zoomed in, it's not as weird. Okay. This is normally an issue. Okay. So you can see here that things are kind of stepping a little bit. You know, like the P and the R and the O and the P aren't all moving at the same time and space. They're moving a little separately. So sometimes you can fix the kerning here, but what you end up doing is breaking this kerning over here. So, you know, if you look at this area here, as I am adjusting this kerning, you can see it's jumping all over the place. So anyways, that's a pain. So we're in better shape because it's just one. We're only dealing with one factor at this point. I'll erase my highlight. All right. Now I'm going to bring in the rest of my copy. And I will have to do copy work on here later on. You can see this doesn't quite line up properly. But I'm going to fix that later once I'm doing my final text pass through. All right, we can get rid of these. Move that over a little bit. Okay, and our second image is, I just want to check out and make sure. Okay. So what we're going to do is pull in let's see. You can see some of the pictures that we're going to be using pretty soon. Here it is. So use your juice. This whole section is about how to, oh, interesting. It's different sizes than the previous one. So I'll just eyeball this for now. I'll fix it better later on. But this one's about using your juice, helping out people. So one of the things that we need to do when we're doing this is you don't want to be too deep into the infographic when you introduce a new color. So we want kind of in the top third to a quarter of the infographic to introduce all the colors that people are going to see later on. So there's a good chance that this text will be this kind of navyish purplish. This should be probably our orange. And that should work pretty well. And so the reason for that is, if you're going along and you kind of establish a set number of colors as you're going down the infographic, it will get to a point where if you all of a sudden introduce like a bright blue, like a baby blue or a hot pink or something, it's really going to jar people. And it's going to, as soon as they start to see it, their eyes are immediately going to go to that section. Now, in some ways that can be a good thing, but in other ways it can be a distraction because then you're kind of wondering why doesn't this act like everything else? Why is it demanding so much of my attention? Is it really that important? All right, so here's where we will get this to line up a little bit better. And so one of the things I want to try is finding this picture, pulling it in. Let's see what would happen. Ooh, this, okay. I did unnecessary steps there that I didn't need to do. So one of the things that I could have done was pull the image into here because this already has the texture I'm looking for. And all I need to do is save this as brick, and we're going to make it a Photoshop file. Use PSD, thank you. And then we're going to go in here and change the duotone colors. And we'll do that, that's okay. Change the duotone colors, select this, select our hex value, go back here, and change that. Okay, that's got potential. So the interesting thing with this is we're not even seeing, okay. We're not even seeing this, but what it seems to me is that, oops, this is a little bit too dark. So, we're losing details in here. So I want to try to lighten this up a little bit. And yeah, let's turn off the curves. Yeah, we'll turn off the curves to be consistent, but I don't necessarily love it right now. So save that, save for web, and we already renamed that brick. Now this is what I was saying that I messed up with, because I just went through the resizing of it, but what I did was I adopted the dimensions of this image rather than this image, so once I relink it, you'll see that the image won't fit again. Yeah. So pros and cons to that. Just a second. Okay. Bring that down. Bring it down just a little more. All right. So now you can see basically how this newsletter is coming together, how this infographic is coming together. One of the things I was thinking about is, do I want, I might make this into 10 steps for building an audience. If my title, it's not really steps, but it kind of is. But so if we want to do this, so one of the things that's always interesting to me about this newsletter is, as I am working on it, it changes drastically. So the version that I work on, I've tried doing these videos in the past, but my starting state is so different than my finishing state, I never actually publish them. But I figured this would actually give me the opportunity to do this. So let's say we're 10 steps for building an audience. And come on, just want to grab that. I don't know if this is going to work, but let's see. And actually what we would probably do is copy, paste in front, copy, paste in front, pull this down, center align it. Too much. Okay, all these lines aren't working, because what I would want to do is get rid of this, bring this one in so it's about equal to here. Select it, mirror it, copy, group them, align it. Good, works properly. So this tells me that my 10 steps might be off center. There we go. Does that mean and is off center? No, it's okay. All right. I don't love these lines. We don't need them. Do we need them here? Maybe. This G is really killing me with things. It's making it hard. Much harder than it needs to be. 10 steps for building an audience. Maybe. It's fully possible that I just roll with it that way. It's okay. And put this in here. Yeah, I think that'll work for now. So, but again, you can see things are just changing. And that, oh, I never got back to my original point. So the part of putting 10 steps in here is, what I'm wondering is, do I want some sort of circle, which would actually allow me to introduce another color, or do something like this. In this space. Now, if I do that, I'm going to need to put more spacing in here. And you know what? We've got some white in here, so we can add white as a color. Grab all that, slide it down. group these things. And so I need to find a place, like there's a lot of places along here that I can put this number. Like that would look pretty cool. But the problem is now we're running into this. So we've got a lot of nice comfortable space around here, but not so much there. And would this make more sense as a lighter color? This sort of color with a stylized drop shadow. All right, remove that and that. Just change our color to green. It's kind of the wrong green, but that'll get us there. That adds some class to it. But I'm wondering where, so we would change this color and then effect, apply drop shadow. Yeah, see, it's too close here. It's now competing with this, so this solution doesn't work. But something like this could work. I'm actually going to view trim mode so I can cut off the bleed there, see how it looks. Maybe. Oh, you know what? If you look closely, it says the wrong color. Drop shadow, so properties. Let's see. So I need to change, oh, that's why. So I need to change the color of the drop shadow. Kind of brownish. That's not good. Let's do the red. Okay. So now the drop shadow actually matches the color on there. So nice and simple. Nothing too fancy in here yet. The properties panel is huge, so I need to remember to close that. I'm going to open up some space there. Reduce some space there. And now that's going along pretty well. All right, make sure to save. And now there are 10 of these, so if there are only 9, I'd probably do a center aligned, or I might do a center aligned in the middle. But since there are 10, we're just going to do this and Option Shift, oops. Option Command, click and drag, and hold down the Shift button. And that looks about good. I'll go through and make the exact measurements work better next time. So now, let's look at our swatches. Sorry, we've got a little dog with a bad attitude problem. So now we can see, so we want to just reintroduce this. So I'm going to just play with these so I can kind of look at how the colors are going to rotate through. Excuse me. Do I just want to rotate through those? Well, yeah, I think navy should be the next one. If we go this route, it's too close to that. If we do that, it's too close to that. So navy's going to be our next color. Yeah, we'll do that. So the thing I'm debating is, do I just want to do 2 colors so then it's even at the end? Do I do 3 colors, but then it's like 3, 3, 3, 1? So we'd have an extra kind of minty color at the end. But if not, they're relatively easy things to fix. because we saved, I've been saving the Photoshop files as I'm going along so that I can go back and change the duotones if need be. All right, so back to my Evernote. All right, now here's an interesting one where the title is just speaking. I come in here, and so this is a choice that I made. One thing I didn't address earlier, this is a choice that I made that, okay, I'm going to do title case for the headlines and all lowercase for the subheads. And then, let's see, links. Link to speaking. And you know what? We will bring this into here, select all, copy, bring this into here. So it's duotoned already. Actually, you know what? Let's undo that, make sure that's saved. Now paste it and transform. Listen to here, and actually one of the things I want to do with this is I want to cut off most of that banner because nobody cares what's on that banner. Image mode duotone. Let's look at our colors. We go back here to grab, go back here to grab our this color, whatever it is. It's almost like a reflex blue. Let's see, Photoshop. Change the dark. All right, that's good. Let's change the light. Very really light, but we're going to pull that up. I like how that's turning out. Yeah. All right, what was the name of this one? Product. That's that. Just go blue, we're going to use the PSD, and then save for web. You know what, before I do that, I'm going to select this stuff and put a slight blur on it. We don't need that stuff grabbing attention. There's enough going on in this infographic without people trying to figure out what that thing says. And this one, I'm just going to stamp it out. Okay. So we've got that. Cool. All right, so that's correct. Save for web. Save, save. And back to Illustrator. Now relink that. And it fits the size. Great. That makes things much easier. Okay, we'll grab that color, go to properties, drop shadow. Close enough. 3. So what I'm going to do basically is kind of use this one line to center between these two, roughly. It's creating some awkward space, so I'm going to bring that up a little bit also. Now, one of the things that I'm running into is it's a bit unbalanced. Like the white numbers aren't working. This yellow text looks weird with this. So I wonder if I change these colors to, it's a little too blue. Yeah, I think this is the way to go. And then, let's see, color, copy that. Whoops. Now I'm going to add this color there. Don't know why that highlight's not showing up. Ah, that's why. All right. There we go. Now, okay, we select the hex color there and drop it in there. So there's still enough differentiation here to pass accessibility. It might be a little tight on this one. Speaking, it looks better though. You know, because this white color it's an aberration. So again, like everything in here fits in the exact same color palette. Same with this one, same with this one. We don't have to worry about that. You can't see that guy's name, right? Okay, good. So we don't want that. Another idea. Okay. I wonder if we're going to bring this down here to save it just in case. Just in case this is a bad idea. So this. What if this is 20% opacity? Or maybe 40% because it's pretty light. It's hard to see. Ooh, but it wouldn't be here. Here we could drop down to 20%, maybe even 15%. See what a 2 would look like there. Kind of hard to see. Would a 2 make more sense on the photo somewhere? See, the 1's getting lost because we've got really dark areas and really light areas. The 2's very subtle, and that's a little too subtle. All right, we need to change the color of this if we're going to go that dark. Now it's getting lost again. All right, so is this 50%? That look a little weird on her. That's not that bad, but this one is getting lost here. There we go. But I don't think I can go white here because I lose the top. But I can go white there. So, mission accomplished. Bring to front. Change that. We're going to drop that down 15%. 5%. Let's do 10%. Now we need to find a good place like this. So we're going from a really busy picture to a not at all busy picture. But I think that works. All right, so got a little more personality with our numbers. Helps kind of build it out. Not necessary to see, but it's something that can get attention. So save it again. And we're going to copy this one down because we need a one with a picture on the left. All right, so one of the tricky things with this now is when I go to group these and stack them out, I need to deal with these numbers because you can see, you know, what my spacing is. You know, when I select all of this, my total box comes down to here, but once I deselect that, it comes back up to where I need it to be. And that one should be fine. That one should be fine. Okay, so number 4 on our list. You know what, we're going to shorten this to just talk everywhere. So originally it was called Talk Everywhere. That will let you talk, but we're going to have to, let's see if I can just shrink this one down. Lots of backgrounding in there. Yeah, I like it a little tighter. I used to have a boss that yelled at me all the time. He's like, put more air in there. Yeah, well, he's not paying me for this, so I call the shots on this. All right, so T's are tough because sometimes the letter wants to like slide in underneath. Boy, this is a tough word. The V's are always difficult, especially when there's another one right by it, like a rounded letter right next to it. Here, I'm going to pull that in. And I'm not just adjusting it everywhere throughout the letter, throughout the word, no pun intended. I'm actually seeing where it makes sense. And this would probably be a good one to look at upside down. Got a block of open, a lot of open blocks right in the middle of that word there. Maybe between these two, it's already kind of tight. All right, talk everywhere. Let's see, now this one I took 4 notes, so I need to do some on-page text editing. Sorry. You know what? I'm going to move this to point 1. Talk everywhere, everywhere that is smart, that will let you talk. That makes sense, that will let you talk. Build up your speaking muscles, and then what's number 4? Yeah, I'm going to leave that off for now. We might come back to it. Paragraph, hyphenation, turn it off. You don't need it. It's not helping. All right, so we now have the wonder of not 1 but 2 widows on here. I'm going to pull it up because this left some extra space. Now here's where we make the decision of, do we go with this color? You know what? Let's save this and go back and look at our inspiration image. They have true duotones in here. Maybe I need to do that. And by that I mean, you know, got this mahogany burgundy and this burgundy and yellow mixed together. But these are light and dark. So anyways, that's a problem for a little bit later. All right, let's look at the link. That's where things get almost a little shady of what do I want to do. So this one's going to be an interesting one because it's obviously in a different aspect ratio than what we're used to dealing with. But I will, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to lighten this one up so it's closer to this color, and then do this brick color. So let's find, I knew I should have colored these, or labeled them by number rather. Let's see, mode, duotone. Our light needs to really hang out over here. It's looking really red, and I want it to be almost more orangey, right? Yeah. That's a cool color. All right, we're gonna save this, and then, whoops. Brick 2, in case we need to come back to it. All right, then we come back up here and relink. Brick 2, it's too hot. It's kind of hot. Oops, Photoshop. I gotta adjust the duotone. I need the darks to be darker. Place that. Come back over here. Yes, I want to update that. I guess that works. And then now what I want to do is grab this brick color and I'm going to start here and pull in this color, this image rather. Yep, I think that works. Change this to brick, use PSD. All right, now image, duotone. This color is where we're really gonna kind of get that red back. Yeah, yep, that was a good move. So now here, because it's already in the right proportions from the original, I can put this in here and hopefully it fits perfectly great. Change that to 4, change the opacity, transparency to 30. All right, so you can start to see how the infographic is coming together and what's going on here. You know, 10 steps for building an audience. Boop, 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 boop. We're going down the page. And so this is the beginning of it. I'm probably going to do more up here. This area seems a little empty, a little lost. Not really sure what's going on there. Oh, you know what I did do? Okay. This works better. So we've got a pattern forming where we got center, left, center, center. I might need to put this over here. Oh, you know what I wish I had? I do have it. All right. So we're going to try something a little different. Copy, paste, paste in front, and then mask that. So then I can increase the size here, but not have to worry about resetting it. So I'm going to lock that, then pull that forward. Does it look like he's performing a magic trick? I don't know. All right, so one being in the center is okay, then outside, outside, outside. I think that works. Top, middle, bottom. So that's good because we don't want to actually establish patterns that we're then later going to break. You know, this would be a pretty convoluted pattern if somebody was looking down and be like, well, every fourth one you need to be in the lower right hand corner, or when it's brick it needs to be in the lower right hand corner. This I want to keep real loose and not have a pattern with these because I want it to be able to fit the picture. So that is it for now. I think I can wrap this up. And I will share this when I keep working on it again. I will share at a later date. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it and maybe learned some things. Thanks.